Hello, it's Tuesday the 17th. Let's talk about Bitcoin ahead of the Fed rate decision tomorrow. Up until Friday, the market was pretty sure that it was going to be a 25 basis point cut tomorrow. And there was like a 15, 20, 25% chance that it might be 50 basis point cut. That all changed on Friday night when an article was published by a guy called Nick Timiraos. Now, Nick Timiraos, who writes for the Wall Street Journal, is known as a little bit of a Fed whisperer. He has accurately predicted all the Fed moves basically since 2022. And most market participants believe he had some kind of highly placed source, and that he's also used as a little bit of a float when the Fed want to prepare the market for something or correct something that's happened. They use Timiraos. So he published this article in the Wall Street Journal about how the Fed was undecided over a 25 or 50 basis point cut. He said that the Fed was nervous about keeping interest rates too high for too long, as there was mounting evidence that rates were cooling as they intended, but that, what they don't want to do is allow for any weakness in the jobs market. For me, the fact that he is even writing this article when there was only a small chance of a 50 basis point cut, and because the Fed normally only moved by a margin of 25 basis points, I think that it is pretty likely that the Fed are going to cut by 50 basis points tomorrow. That's why the article was written, and what does that mean then for the market? Well, that's actually pretty bullish. The Fed have all been geared trying to make a soft landing. A soft landing means that they can revert to a cutting cycle without any cracks in the jobs market or the real estate market or anything else. And so far so good. Here we are, the stock market at all-time highs. No real sign of any weakness yet in the job market. I think that we could argue that perhaps some is coming and there are some signs, but it's not actually here yet. Now, the market may decide that the Fed taking a big chunky cut for the first one may mean that they are worried. And so we could see a little bit of a wobble or profit taking in the market if that happens. But if you look at every other previous kind of cycle where they've started cutting, at least initially, it hasn't kind of marked a major top. It's been pretty bullish. It's certainly bullish for bonds. So, pretty much every cutting cycle when that's happened, it's been really good for bonds. And not bad, at least initially, for stock indexes. So we shouldn't, unless it's only 25 basis points, in which case I think that the stock market may punish for that. And I think we could see, if it's only a 25 basis point cut, I think we could see a little bit of a sharper pullback in stock indexes and maybe a little bit of a nasty shakeout, which will force the Fed to cut next month. We've got 2 more Fed meetings between now and the end of the year. Market's still pricing in a 100 basis points cut or a 4% lower by the end of the year. So I think if it's only 25 basis points now, that we could see some disappointment, but otherwise I don't see any reason for this to be a top yet. Now, a lot of people today are talking about how the S&P is in the futures is testing new all-time highs. I have to say that a lot of that is to do with contract adjustment. We have rolled from September to December, which is why we are up here testing the highs from July. But if we look at the S&P cash, you can see that that's not actually where we are, and we are still underneath the highs from July in the S&P. So don't be fooled by that. However, we are still pretty close to these all-time highs, and really no sign of a bearish reversal. So Bitcoin has been a little bit decoupled from stock indexes lately. It's particularly in this correction, it's really underperformed. And as we spoke about on Friday, this daily 50 moving average has been really important resistance to Bitcoin. You can see when we got underneath it, it was resistance. You you can see in August, we really struggled to get above it. When we did get above it, we saw a pretty nice move. But again, on Friday, this daily 50 is kind of blocking us. And this big round 60,000 number is quite tough resistance ahead of the Fed. Are we likely to see a really strong move ahead of the Fed tomorrow? Potentially. It would be pretty good if we did. If we take a look at where we are on the 4-hour, for my trading strategy, this isn't quite, it looks pretty good for a 4-hour buy, isn't it? But we're not quite green yet. And one thing we could be forming is a little bit of a channel here. And if we do that, then you can see that that 60,000 level becomes even more important. So I would like to be bullish above 60,000 where we failed and a back test. But for me, my favorite trade entry, is a 3-wave correction. And we've made very nice 3-wave moves since we made the low on the 5th of August. A 3-wave move back to a 50% or 61.8. And so if we measure from the low that we made last Friday, put these numbers on the right, I would not be surprised to see a 3-wave move here back to that 50% retrace. And for me, that would be a really nice looking long entry. And that would mean back to 56,600. Don't always get what we want though, do we? So I think if we pop out or if we push above 60,000, then the move is likely to keep going. And then we can talk about that bigger 3-wave correction going the other way in Bitcoin. So let's tidy up this chart here. Take my scribblings away. And by that, I mean this swing here that we made on that 5th of August low. Let's adjust it so we've got it exactly right. I think that we continue this and we head to the top of the channel. So that would be the trade, but 60,000 really is that deciding level. Above 60,000, I think we're headed to 68,000 next. If we can't hold above 60,000, I think there is still the risk of one more swing lower back down to 56,000. And just watch out for volatility around this Fed message tomorrow. That's what I'm looking for in Bitcoin. Hope that's useful. Trade carefully this week. I think once the market shows its hand after Wednesday or Thursday, then I think we'll have a better idea. And tomorrow is, of course, a lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipse happens, lunar eclipses are always on full moons. So we've got a Bitcoin full moon tomorrow as well. Good luck.